Okay, you guys, in this video, I will be going through 10 personal wants of mine that I want to be redone in the modern era with the Eric Siebenaler, I don't know how you say his last name still, but in terms of the work that Eric did over at Transformers in the 2000s. I'm going to be doing a couple of videos on this topic because he did a lot of work. He's responsible for a lot of designs and toys from our childhoods in that era of the franchise. So expect a couple more videos with 10 characters that I want redone and stuff like that, because there's a lot I'm missing here from this list. It's mostly just from Unicron Trilogy, and there's one from Animated at the end that I just really want to talk about in this video. So without further ado, let's get right down to this list. So first one here, Overload from Armada. This is an obvious one. We're getting Jetfire next year. We already have Armada Optimus the last couple years. Just complete the Combiner trio from Armada and we're set. Make him a leader class. You know, give him actual articulation this time around so he's not a brick that relies on gimmicks, which was the majority of Armada, but I digress. Just adding articulation to him, honestly, that's like the main thing that I can think of. Really cool design, really cool combining gimmick and weaponry and features with him. So whenever they do him, I do favor the fans hobby, but if Hasbro does do one, I'm sure it'll be at least good, hopefully, There's always stuff that they think they do good on, but when it actually comes out, it's not the greatest. But next one here, we have Energon Hotshot. This is one that obviously needs a redo after 21 years. Hopefully, Energon Hotshot comes out soon. It's like they did Armada, they skipped over Energon, and they did the Cybertron one last year. So I would imagine the Energon one would be coming out at some point soon down the line, maybe 2027 at the earliest. But I don't know, they're taking their sweet time with Energon and Beast Machine's redos. So I just really hope they make the proportions of his design a lot better than that original deluxe. The articulation needs to be way better, especially in those arms and legs. Ugh, that original was egregious. Worse than the Armada figure, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, just making the proportions and the overall design a bit more streamlined and animation accurate and just pleasant to mess with. And the articulation, please make the articulation way better. And we have Energon Rodimus. This is probably my favorite Rodimus Prime design in the Transformers media. Like those shoulder pylons with the wheels are just sick. They got the flames and the truck mode and his gun. The origin story and the lore behind this iteration of Rodimus is insane too. So badass how he steps to Optimus at certain times in this anime. In the original deluxe figure, it was decent. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad figure, but in terms of the proportions, him being a little bit too small in my opinion, and the articulation being a bit lackluster for him, I think those three things they really got to improve on. He needs to be either a leader class or a Voyager at most, and just fix the proportions on him, make that design really stand out, and adding the articulation and everything like that, and upping the size on him a little. You got yourself a perfect Rodimus figure, in my opinion. Next up, Energon Megatron. This is a Megatron design that people have been asking for I almost said so long, man. This is like such an iconic Megatron design at this point. It's based off of, G1 Galvatron. It's got some Thunderwing cues in there from the design and colors, I'm pretty sure. So there's just a lot of references and design cues to this guy that really make it stand out and look badass. Make him a commander class so he could come with that deluxe class sized tank. Give him his sword, all the different weaponry on his shoulders and on the wings for the jet mode. Make him big, imposing. The original figure was good, but just giving him some of that modern articulation, those few extra points that the figure is missing right now would really be welcomed. So bring it on. Please make him a commander class, Hasbro. Next up here, Scattershot from Cybertron. He was an okay figure, especially for the time. He was pretty fun. But nowadays, he's pretty outdated. You know, he was a scout class. He needed to be a deluxe class back then, but he wasn't, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure this figure doesn't have head articulation. I could be wrong on that, but the last time I remember looking into this figure, and I'm not sure if I had it when I was a little kid, but I remember it not having head articulation, and the articulation in general in the legs being awful. So make him a deluxe class this time around. Make sure his head actually swivels and his leg articulation isn't basically limited to a brick. And boom, you got a perfect scatter shot from Hasbro. That's basically all they need to fix. You know, the features, the vehicle mode, the transformation, the look of the robot mode was nice, but his articulation was not good at all. Next up here, Cybertron Defense Hotshot. This is... I wouldn't say he's my favorite Hotshot design because that would go to Armada for me personally. You know, he's the mascot of this channel. I love Hotshot. I want to see every iteration of him get representation and get good figures. Not to say this figure isn't still fantastic for today's standards in terms of features, look, and even articulation still, but adding some extra joints of articulation, like I think he's missing a bicep swivel and possibly a knee swivel as well. You know, adding those obviously would be super beneficial. I don't know if they're going to keep all the gimmicks. I think they would have to probably make him a Voyager or maybe even a leader class nowadays for all the features and gimmicks he has, which is kind of crazy to say considering this was a $10 deluxe back in 2005, 2006, but whatever, that's the world we live in. Basically just adding articulation to the original figure, you know, the figure we already have, would really set him over the edge, but you know, with today's standards, I don't know if they could top the original just by adding a couple extra a couple extra pieces of articulation, especially if he's missing paint details and weaponry and features. I don't really think that cancels out just adding 2-3 extra pieces of articulation, but that's just me. But, you know, he does need a redo because his articulation is just a little bit stiff for today's standards. And then next up here we have Quick Mix. My main gripe with this figure is the gorilla arm and his size. He is way too small. He is from Gigantia, and those characters, those Cybertronians are, you know, from the title of the planet, they're supposed to be gigantic, and that's one of the things the original toy line was not really good for. They did scale with the Legends class figures, sort of. It was kind of a little too big with the Legends class, but that was like your best bet. They did make these figures way too small to scale with the regular mainline. So hopefully bumping them up to like a Commander class Jetfire size would be nice. I could see them doing a Commander class Quick Mix, you know. It's a Constructicon, construction vehicle. Those always sell well for kids, and it's probably an easy pitch for Hasbro, so I wouldn't be surprised if they do make them. But yeah, hopefully we get him to an actual size, and you know, a size that scales with everybody, and he doesn't have a gorilla arm. Those are my main two complaints that deem him needing a redo really bad. Because if you're out of scale and you got a gorilla arm, those are like two major points. I mean, you could argue that, you know, cartoon scale is different from toy scale, which is true in a lot of times. You know, even now that they're doing Armada characters in modern generations, are redoing those characters, they're not accurate to the cartoon scale. Everybody's supposed to be more or less about the same height, with a few characters being excluded from that, and they're following their own scale basically based off the vehicles, which is what the Cybertron toy line was doing, because obviously a cement truck isn't the size of like Navy ship or whatever, you know. So there is differences, but I just want that cartoon accurate scale to just really be cool with that guy. But then Menasor is in that same boat. He's a little bit better in terms of scale because he was I can't remember if he was a leader class or the class right behind that, but he was bigger than Quick Mix. He wasn't a Voyager class. Again, he needed to be around the Legacy Metroplex size, the Titan class we got a couple years ago. So it's sizing problems again with him that I really think he needs a redo for that cartoon accurate scale. And to close out Cybertron redos I want to talk about in this video, Optimus Prime. Obviously, this is the big one that everybody wants to see get redone in the modern era. There was that third-party Masterpiece figure, which is fantastic if you get the metallic version that had the fixed QC. That is a great figure. But in terms of Hasbro, we need one that's either Commander class or a small Titan class similar to Star Convoy, because at this point, I mean, you might as well go small Titan, considering all the features and the size of that Optimus Prime in super mode. So I don't know, he really can be either Commander or small Titan like Star Convoy. He's a design that everybody's asking for. I think he's probably coming 2027 at the earliest, I'd say, considering we already have everything booked up for next year. But, you know, the main thing that they could fix with that original figure is the proportions just being a little bit more animation accurate. Obviously adding a bit better articulation for today's standards, an ankle pivot, waist swivel, maybe a ball-jointed head, wrist swivel, and stuff like that. It was a little bit ahead of its time. He did have hand articulation, and he did have a good range of movement, but he just needs a few extra joints in there to really solidify it, especially for articulation standards nowadays. And the last one I want to talk about here, a little bit of animated flavor here, Lugnut. Obviously, that Voyager class figure, the articulation is super outdated. I'm pretty sure he doesn't even have head articulation. And his size is the big thing. That Voyager class Lugnut is way too small. I think there was a leader class one planned back in the day, but it was canceled or something. I could be wrong on that, but I have heard that in the past that was in development at one time. But he definitely needs to be a commander class nowadays to get all his weaponry, his size, the engineering in there with the ratchet joints, the detail, paint, sculpt, all of that. I really would love for him to be a commander class, but if he's just a leader class, it would obviously be way better than a dinky Voyager class with not too good of articulation, especially in the head area. But yeah, that would be great with Lugnut. He is like one of the ones I want to see redone the most from animated, because he was one of the ones that was really out of scale in that original toy line besides the Dinobots. You know, you do have a few activators and a few deluxe scaled figures that would actually scale pretty good with Lugnut and the Dinobots, but overall, it was absolutely terrible. So hopefully we see him at leader class or commander class soon. But yeah, guys, that about does it for the 10 figures I want to see from Eric Siebenaler redone in the modern era. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos talking about 10 designs and figures that he originally worked on that I want to see get redone with some extra articulation or better scaling, whatever the case may be. But yeah, guys, let me know down below, which figures from this guy, Eric Siebenaler, do you want to see redone the most in today's day and age? And yeah, guys, thank you for watching this video. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye.